But I'll have another welcome as you coming on board here. Thank you to everyone that joined early. Really appreciate that. We're expecting about 1,000 some people here, so we're watching the counter get up, and at some point here we'll begin. We want to just start at 5 after? Give everyone enough time to think?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Great questions coming in, guys. Thank you. Keep submitting them. We'll get to as many as we can.
And there's 2 raised hands, 3. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, we're going to focus all the questions coming from the Q&A section, so we're not going to be calling on people with raised hands to be speaking at this time.
Okay.
We'll be stuck with just hearing us talk.
Welcome everyone that's joining us. We're going to start at 12:05. Give everyone a little chance to jump on board here. So begin here pretty quick.
All right, shall we kick it off?
Let's go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Brent, and I do marketing and customer experience here at Insteon. I'll be helping moderate today. Up on your screen, you also see Ken, our CEO. He's going to be sharing some company insights with you today to kick things off. Steve, as he mentioned a little earlier, is our Senior Director of Technical Support. He's going to be tackling some of our more technical FAQs, common ones that he gets. And he has been doing it for 15 years. He has gathered quite a few tips and tricks over that span, so I'm sure everyone will learn a lot from that. Then we're going to go into our Q&A session. As I mentioned earlier, please go ahead and type in the Q&A section any questions that you might have. Don't treat it like a chat. We're just going back and forth. This is where questions I'm going to be pruning from and presenting them to either Ken or Steve to answer on your behalf. And yeah, mainly at the end of the day, just thank you for taking time out here for these next 45 minutes or so. Be sure to give us some feedback with the survey at the very end to help us learn how helpful this was for you. And Ken, let's go. You're up to bat.
All right. I'd like to add my welcome as well to that of Brent and Steve's. And I got to say, I'm excited to be able to meet everyone today, if only virtually. And sincerely, thank you for supporting us on this journey. We really appreciate it. And we were pleasantly surprised by the enthusiastic support for our first lunch with Insteon, and hopefully not our last. And I hope you'll find it a good use of an hour of your time. I thought I'd begin by giving you a little bit of my background. I had a 20-year career with HP where I had held several senior management positions, and I think you'll find several of our business pillars are actually based on the HP way. Upon leaving HP in early 2000s, I joined a consulting firm, which led me to Smart Home of all things, first as a consultant and then as VP of Products and Technology. And interestingly enough, I was involved with the launch of Insteon. In 2007, I left to join a family office where I was responsible for the developing growth strategies for their operating companies. One being Chamberlain, where I developed a vision for their connected garage door product called MyQ. And now over the last 7 years, I've been actively involved in mentoring companies that are part of UCI, that's University of California at Irvine's incubator, fondly referred to as the Cove. And I'm a member of the investment committee for the Cove Fund, which brings me now to Insteon Technologies. Thought I'd now kick off my talk with some background on the forming and foundation of Insteon Technologies. Much like you, I found out back in April about the closing of Smart Labs when my hub stopped working. I reached out to some of the people I knew and found out Smart Labs had entered a unique form of bankruptcy called an ABC, which, interesting enough, is unique to California and a few other states, and really popped up during the dot-com era. It's an interesting story there. But having found that out, I then, being curious, contacted the trustee for the company. And I guess the long and short of it is the path to launching Insteon Technologies was a winding path, but it turned out we were in the right place at the right time. And candidly, we just couldn't sit and watch what was happening. If we ever get a chance to meet personally, which I would welcome, I'd be happy over a nice glass of bourbon to share some of the behind-the-scenes stories. And I assure you there are a lot of them. Our decision to move forward with forming Insteon was in the end based on a passion for technology and a larger passion for you, the Insteon community. I'm sure that kind of sounds corny, but after all, we are you. And the old company's decisions also impacted us directly. My co-founder and I have been blown away by the support we received from all of you. It continually reaffirms our decision to launch Insteon Technologies. So sincerely, thank you so much. Moving forward, this is the same proven technology, but it's a completely different company. And we think there are three pillars of the company that really differentiate us. First, community. Every decision we'll make is based on what is best for the community, including you and our partners. And being authentic. We're committed to listening and being authentic and open with our communications, which hopefully we're demonstrating today and through my email updates. And finally, growth, but profitable growth, based on thoughtful decisions and investing in customer experiences, our partners, our products, and our team. I believe these three combined together will be critical to guaranteeing our success. And I know a number of you are asking questions about that, so that's kind of fundamental to my answer to some of those questions. I'll now give you a quick update on our progress. It's hard to believe it's just been over 3 months since we first launched the company. And during this time, I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to accomplish. We've reignited the hubs, and we've engaged you, the community. We've started development on enhancing the lighting app, and you should see an update fairly soon. We've launched a refurbishment program for the hubs, recognizing we don't have a lot of inventory, and we're looking at the PLMs too. And I know you'll all be happy here. We've been continuing on building our customer service team, and I have Brent's assurance that next week we'll have worked through all the backlogs of emails, and we believe we're in a good position to provide better response times. And thank you for working with us as we've worked for building out the support team. We really appreciate it. I'm especially proud of the management team that we've been able to build, two of which are here joining me today on this call. And genuinely, without them, we wouldn't be where we are now. And so special thanks to them for everything they've done to help us get it where we are. And finally, I am happy to announce we're receiving products. It's been a real challenge with all the supply chain issues, and we'll be opening the store. So look for my email in the next few days. And in closing, well, we welcome positive feedback. It's always great. We more desire your thoughtful insights and ideas. And I ask you to please hold us accountable. In short, I just want to say, keep your cards and letters coming. And I assure you, we are listening. Thank you. And I kept this kind of short because I want to make sure we have enough time to answer your Q&A. So Brent, back to you.
All right, awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have Steve kind of go over some of the frequently asked questions he gets. Some of you have filed some of those support tickets. I've been lucky enough to have it escalated up to Steve to help you if it's a special situation beyond my expertise. So he is the go-to guy. So I'm going to let him kind of share some of his tips and tricks with you right now. Go for it, Steve.
Welcome, everyone. My name's Steve Lee. Ironically enough, Ken is the one who hired me at Smart Home and Insteon back in 2005. So I had been asked a couple of times to come and work for him, and my standard response, not to Ken, but to other people, were that they couldn't afford me. And I was their largest dealer at the time that I came to work for them. So I come out of the field. I was an installer. I had my own business for many years. And I installed, in the first 10 houses I did, this was before an app or a hub or anything, I installed the products and linked them all manually. So sometimes when someone might say that, well, their hub is offline and they can't do anything, it's like, well, I was doing it before there was any hub or anything like that. So that I find that funny. But I want to be here to help you to get back connected. I've got some tribal knowledge in my head that I'm willing to share, and a lot of you I've gotten on the phone and have talked with. I want to share a few things, though, that are some of the common things that we get. And trying to put this in perspective of, it can be frustrating when your hub is offline. And you're like, well, why is it offline? It was working fine before the company shut down the servers. Now you put it back up, and it's offline. I've got some canned responses that I send out, but I usually do it along with my personal response so you can see the flow. One of the things you obviously want to do is make sure that you power down the hub and power it up, because what we're looking for is to see that the hub's own diagnostics are happening. The first thing that should happen is it should turn red. And then within a minute, it should go green. That means it's reaching the server. Now, it's going to do that whether you have a service plan or any subscription or anything like that. The hub will still do that. And that's a good way to know that the hub is connected. If your hub shows green, but you can't get on with the app, I suggest that you log out of the app, log back in again, and then go through the process. Now, we do find a fair amount of times that people will say, I can't get in. I log in, fails, doesn't find a hub. So we'll have them give us their hub ID. And what we do is we look it up and find out they've been using the wrong email address to log in. And that also can be something that can quickly alleviate the problem. Because maybe over the years you've set up a couple of hubs, you forgot which one it was, it went offline, and like a lot of people, it went offline, so what did they do? They took the hub, they put it all in a box, and then you found out it's back online, and you put the hub back on, and you're trying to remember the email that you used, and we can find that information for you very quickly. So if that's happening to you, please, in your emails, just say, the hub's green, I can't seem to log into it, but here's the ID. Then we can help put you together with it. One thing you can do when you have the right ID, which is your email address, is you can do a forgot password. In case you forgot the password, you've been trying to log in and you can't log in. Usually it's related to that kind of stuff. Simply sort of refreshing and getting it a chance to connect to the server. In some cases, people didn't do anything and they just went on their app and it worked again. But I would suggest doing it. There are some more severe consequences or circumstances that happen with hubs. One is where your router has created an IP conflict. And this is where you can have two devices that are on your router at the same time, and your router, for whatever reason, gives both of them the same IP address. You know what happened? Your router now is conflicted with those two devices. It can't keep them both online at the same time. Sometimes it'll show itself where the hub is red, then goes green, and you're like, great. And then what? An hour later, it goes back to red. So a lot of times it can be related to that. What I like to suggest is that take your hub if you can, and I know when I type it in an email, it might come across as corny or like, why would I do this? Like, can you take it to a neighbor's house or take it onto a completely different network and plug it in and see if it doesn't stay green and connect right away? If it does, what it tells you is that there's a hardware issue not related to the hub or the server or your app or any of that, but it's a hardware issue on your own equipment. And I just responded and had somebody respond back to me about that and said, you know, I hesitated with the old plug it in your neighbor's house, but I did, and it went green right away, and that got me to think, okay, well then it is somewhere on my network. He said I started troubleshooting, and I took it off my switch that I had the hub plugged into, and I plugged it right into my router, and you know what? It worked. Then I started looking at the switch and found out I had a bad port on my switch. So it's those type of things. Sometimes just the fact of unplugging the Cat5 cables and you're going to somewhere else to put it in, even if you pretend it, you unplug it, you leave it unplugged for a little bit, take the cables out of both ends and go plug it all back in. Just re-plugging those cables in can be enough that it can bring the hub back. And you never would have thought about it because you looked at the back and said, I don't know, it looks like it's connected, but the pins maybe aren't quite lined up. Maybe, there's the Cat5 cable you're using has got a little bit of corrosion on it. Simply plugging it back in now makes a good connection. So you can kind of get the idea there that this doesn't mean whenever your hub goes offline that somehow we're working on the server and we just shut you off. We have thousands of people that stay online and stay connected and have never had an issue with it. They've always been connected until we had the company go under, the previous company. So if it's happening to you, we definitely want to help. We want to hear from you. But understand that it's likely one of those things. And when we give you a tech support response, those responses are trying to get you to go through the steps that it would take to bring it back. And it's not a matter of us, oh, that's right, we have the switch off for your server, your hub is reaching. It's not anything like that. We turn the servers on, everybody can reach them. So there's that as far as related to the hubs. A few other things. There are legacy devices, and this goes back to the original Insteon business. They made a decision with what we call the Insteon Lighting app to not support everything that was out there, partly because of resources where, to build a whole new app from scratch and to be able to support everything from cameras and thermostats and I/O links and all of that, the development time to get it out to the market is going to take a lot longer. So a decision was made at that time. Let's start off with the core products, the products that 90% of the people are using 90% of the time. So that's what that app supports. The Insteon for Hub app is an older app. It's been around a long time. It's got a lot of updates to it. It supports a lot of older legacy stuff. But you may find that something like an Insteon camera stops working. And I want to talk to that a little bit because I have gotten a fair amount of emails about the Insteon camera. Like when we turned the servers back on, that now the cameras don't work, so it must have been something related to that. The cameras don't rely on the server. What happens is when you're in the app and you're configuring it, that the app will try to do a port forward rule in your router if it automatically supports it. It uses something called universal plug and play. What that is the ability for your router to say, oh, I will open up outside access to this camera. And that's pretty much what's happening. The app is allowing it to be accessed. If your IP camera changes its IP, the app can't see it. And then you'd have to go in and do either a port forwarding rule, or if your router supported this, to try to go in and do it again. Now, all that being said, this product, the cameras, have not been supported in years from the standpoint of firmware updates, even actually being manufactured. They had some that they blew out a few years ago, but those products go way back to early FOSCAM designs. They were made by FOSCAM and branded with the name Insteon. So I have sent some customers some links to the original page that showed how to download the camera finder. And if you want to, you can try to work through it yourself and try to get the cameras working again. But literally all it takes is you to update your browser or update the phone. And now the Kodak is now out of date. And that's the video engine process that allows your phone to be able to see the video image. And we can't control that. So they were made by the other company. We're not manufacturing them. I'll send you the resources that I can that might allow you to access them directly. But cameras are one of the things that I wanted you to know about, at least where our capabilities lie in getting the cameras to work. There are inexpensive options for you. You can buy a $30 Wise Cam that is 20 times better than those cameras. The resolution, audio, I mean, so much good about them. And hopefully in the future, one day, we will look at who has the market share in cameras, and maybe we'll add some camera support to the app. I mean, I'd like to see it, and maybe it's something that'll happen. But for right now, I just wanted to sort of create expectations related to the cameras. I/O links. I/O links are very popular. They're not supported in the new app. They're used for garage door openers and that type of thing. I've had customers who said, I can't add the I/O link so I can get the button on my keypad to open the garage door. Well, you can manually link all of this. I think it's important if I spend a little bit of time talking about manual linking, because you might have a situation where everything works fine except my B button turns on a light that I don't want it to turn on. And I don't see it in the app. I don't know how to fix it. Well, you simply can take the B button and push it. You can hold the Sept button for 3 seconds at the bottom of the keypad, and now the B button will start to flash. Then you'll let go. Then what you'll do is hold it again for 3 seconds, and it will start to flash at a slightly different cadence. Some keypads, the LED will turn red. Now you are in unlink mode. Now you simply go to the switch that you're trying to unlink, press and hold its Sept button in, and you've unlinked it. And now you've solved the problem. You didn't have to go into the app and try to add the device into a scene that doesn't exist and then take it back out. You can manually fix a lot of these little anomalies that might have happened or things that have happened over time. You might say, how does that happen? How is it that all of a sudden this happens? Well, the fact that you can manually link them, sometimes somebody's trying to add a device to the hub, and the hub instructs you to go to the device and press and hold the Sept button. So you do. And what happens? For some reason, it doesn't link. Now, the I/O links were a single band device, meaning they weren't power line and radio frequency, the only power line. So if you have a small setup, your hub's on a different phase than your I/O link, you might find it challenging to be able to link to the hub. But what happens when you do go and hold that Sept button in is now your I/O link is flashing. And if you don't know any better and you go, well, it didn't work, I'm going to go to another device and try to add that. So you go to that and you hold the Sept button in. You know what you did? You just linked it to your I/O link and you didn't link it to the hub. Now you can run into a situation where your I/O link is turning on that other device. Your garage door opens and it sends out a command to turn on your bedroom light. And you're like, how did that happen? I didn't do anything. All I tried to do was add 2 devices. So I'm curious of the feedback of this kind of stuff. Maybe I put out some videos about this type of thing, if that would be helpful for people. Because manual linking is sort of a forgotten sort of something in the past that people don't even think about. And manual linking is, I mean, I've done houses with 1,800 Insteon devices before. I did a house for the International Builders Show that had 64 keypads and 120 switches, and it was all manual link. If anybody's ever done that, you can realize how ridiculous that is, especially when you have to have multiple buttons in keypads all throughout the house that all do the same thing, because every button has to light up when you push every other button. So, I mean, I didn't have, maybe a little bit of just being sarcastic, I never had a lot of sympathy for people who complained about having to manually link a couple of switches. I did it all the time, and it was like, it was just what you did. But with that comes a lot of power. Being able to manually manipulate the switches quickly. You don't have to have an app or a subscription or anything if you have devices and you just want them to work in and amongst themselves. That's kind of the nice thing about Insteon, is it doesn't rely on the cloud. So when I push a button, that a switch turns on. I can fix all of that even if I don't have an app. And so I imagine the list can go on with different smaller devices that we used to sell, micro modules. I love micro modules. Are we going to sell them again? I don't know. I mean, hopefully we've got to do this in a responsible way, try to build out, getting product back on. Insteon sold 200 products, and that's a lot to try to take on to put all of that back on the market, and it would be irresponsible to say yes, you'll probably see all of those. But I understand micro modules are cool devices. You could use it to trigger something. If the 120 volt load turned on, the micro module itself could then turn on other things. People used to use it as a trigger to turn on like a circulating pump on the other side of the house, or a small thing where I needed a standard switch. So maybe I had an old 100-year-old home with push buttons for on and for off. I could put a micro module behind that in an old Victorian home, and now I could do it in Insteon scene. So we realize how cool the products were, and we're all passionate about them. But if certain products aren't available, and when you're first looking for them, bear with us. We're going to try to, see what makes the most sense and do this responsibly. So, as maybe you could tell, I could go on for hours and talk about stuff like this. And but let's go to questions, and then maybe if there's something else that somebody else has a question on, or later on I can go on with another little rambling. But, Brent.
All right. Thank you, Steve. So we're going to start getting to your questions right now. And you guys, fantastic response. Thank you so much. This is what we hoped it would be. People are being very candid and asking great questions, and let's see how many we can get to. One of the first ones that we want to talk about is more for Ken. Given what happened in the recent past with the previous iteration of Insteon, I'm sure some of us are gun-shy about investing in additional hardware without some assurance that it won't become useless in the future. What can you tell us about the outlook for the company? How stable are you financially?
Well, obviously, we have a very positive outlook for the company. I think it's built on a couple things. I talked about that during my opening comments about the pillars, and I really think they're important. And for any company, I think it's important to have pillars. Having mentored all these companies over the last couple of years at UCI, you'd be amazed how many of them don't take the time to even put those kind of things down. So you don't have a guiding light. So I think our guiding light really is key to this. I think the other part of this is we understand what happened to the old company. And we have a pretty good perspective on why they went down the path they did. And we have no intention of duplicating that path. And I think this is where you can learn from the past. So I think that's also just kind of gives you some assurance that we're not going to fall in the same traps that they did. And I think one of the big ones, and that's really kind of related to today, we're interested in listening. We want your feedback. And I think any company that doesn't listen to their customers is destined to fail. I think history has shown that. And that's why it's so imperative for us to reach out. That's why I know a number of you I've talked to personally, because I reach out because I want to hear directly from you. One of the stories I like to tell from my Hewlett Packard days is Lou Platt, who was the CEO of HP. I asked him, he and I were having lunch one day, and I asked him, so Lou, what's the hardest part of your job? And he said to me, getting people to tell me the truth. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, no, my executive team is great and everything, but you get so far removed, you don't understand what's really going on. So he said, Kim, when I come down to visit you, you notice I always ask you to put on a little get-together for all the people in the local offices. That's because they'll tell me the truth. They're not afraid to give me their feedback, and that gives me a perspective and insight. So that's, another, critical, part of this. And then the other thing I think you've heard from me a number of times just on this, we talked about, thoughtful growth and thoughtful investments. It's a little bit, I know a lot of people have concerns that we're charging for the hub subscriptions, but that was to make it a sustainable business. And we knew it was going to always be there. Those are kind of the right decisions, I think, to make to give you some assurance that we're going to be around. And just purely on a financial standpoint, we're in a good position right now. And so don't have any real concerns about that. As long as we don't lose our way and lose these pillars that we built on, I think we'll be just fine. And I think, but only time will tell. And we need to earn your trust, and we understand that. And that's what our plan to do is. Our plan is to do that.
All right, great. Thank you, Ken. Another one that we're getting a lot of is more third-party integration, what our relationship is with people like Universal Devices, HomeSeer, and so you can elaborate on that, Ken?
Yes. Okay, I mentioned that too. Partners are important to us. And
Yeah.
I recognize and understand what was going on in the previous company and not really welcoming other companies to help participate and be part of the ecosystem. And I've been reaching out to those other partners, some we mentioned, and want to support them in any way we can. And so we're actively talking with them. I'd like to, HomeShare reached out candidly. I've not heard back from them. So if anyone has a contact there, tell them to please give me a call. I'd like to talk to them. Same thing with Indigo. So any of those, if you have a relationship with them or know them, just tell them to reach out to me. But it's the new Insteon Technologies. We welcome partnerships. We don't scorn them.
Great. And as a follow-up to that as well, and this might be a little bit more for you, Steve, quite a few people saying, hey, Insteon servers went dark, so I, like you said, I put my hub in a box and I started using a third party like an ISY. What's the benefit of me switching back over, paying for the subscription, and now going back to the Insteon hub?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So I might come at this a little bit different than just sort of towing the company line. I think the ISY is super powerful, and I'm not going to stand here and say that, oh, the ISY doesn't hold a candle to the hub. The ISY is superior to most any of the controllers that are out there from the standpoint of firepower, what it can integrate with. A big fan of it. I've used lots of them in my career and also with my time at Insteon. I even worked for Universal Devices for a little while, helping with support. So I'm a big fan of third-party integration. I have other companies that I've had relationships with, and those products also work with the ISY. So you can create pretty cool solutions by leveraging Insteon products and ISY and other third-party things to create scenes and experiences that are cool. Now, from Insteon itself, we want to be, like I said, like Ken was saying, we want to be more supportive of these third-party groups to be able to be part of their ecosystems and not sort of like an invented here attitude. And we don't need anything else because our hub can do it all. I don't think it's, and I've said this statement before, even with the previous company, the hub is never going to be an ISY. So we have our spot in the market. If you want to be able to control something from your phone, be able to turn lights on and off remotely and be able to set timed events.
I'm drawing a blank. What's the peak over there in La Cañada that
will allow that.
we put the two TVs at?
Companies we want to work with.
Flint Peak?
Flint, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think all of them serve different markets, and that's why I think it's important for us to support all the different relationships because we all support different customers and different needs. So I think that's why we're not competitive, we're collaborative. Is the way the relationship should be with all of them.
Okay. Another one we have here. When do you plan on adding more devices to the Insteon lighting app?
We're working on it as you speak. Steve mentioned one of the products that's on top on the list is the IO link, by the way, just an FYI for everyone. So what you're first going to see, the next release of the software, we're fixing some bugs in the software some bugs that we're aware of. We're trying to enhance that. And then the next release, I think after that, we'll start adding products to it. And we'll be adding products, probably, our thought is almost every month, for the next couple months, that we get a robust, the lighting app robustly supports at least everything that the hub app is supporting today. And then we'll be looking at adding new products and other things to it. So we've got a great developer working. I've been very pleased. Again, I commented in the management team. I'm really happy with the developer that we have now. He's got experience in the industry. And more importantly, he's been experienced with these home control apps. That's been the problem. You guys all know it's kind of an interesting market. You need to understand it. And having a developer that doesn't understand it just causes problems. So that's pleased we're able to attract this person to help us do the development. So I'm excited about what we're going to see from the lighting app in the next over the next 6 months.
Great. Let me see here. I think great question someone asked here. how will your go-forward strategy for Insteon ensure longevity and differentiation within this saturated market?
Well, first of all, I think building upon the strength of the underlying technology itself, and building continuing to build quality products. I think in the industry, I think we're positioning ourselves. The Insteon solution allows you the ability to do whole home lighting. There are a lot of solutions that you go to Amazon and buy a switch for $12, and then that's fine for doing a room or turning on a one light or whatever. But I think our position is the ability to be able to do a whole home or build it. You can start with just the room, but you have the ability to kind of build on as your needs grow and you get comfortable with it. I'm sure all of you have found that as well. But in addition to that, we're just not focused on lighting. So you're going to see us also focused on bringing some of the products that kind of expand out of just being lighting by bringing in the door sensors, motion sensors, the other relays and things. So you can enable you to do more sophisticated automation within your home using this. So a lot of the other solutions out there, the products out there, they might do a nice job in just lighting. You want to do just lighting, but we're gonna do a great job in lighting as well as allow you to expand out past that. Because I think that I was talking to one of our customers yesterday and talking about some of what he was doing, and basically he was using the Insteon to do what I call peace of mind. So he's having some sensors and some others so that when they leave the house, you can get alerts if something's going on in the house, which I call peace of mind. Solutions, which I think are a big opportunity. So we're going to continue to support that and build out the platform that way. So I think that's how we're going to continue to invest in the technology and the products.
Great. And here's one that I know actually I, as an Insteon user for the past 15 years myself, have bugged you about, Ken, with having been there before. But a lot of people asking if we're going to get to the point where we'll start offering customizations of etching on buttons again.
We'll be looking into that, yes. I'll just share with you guys, one of my great frustrations is when the company went through the process the trustee allowed the etching machine to be sold. So that was frustrating because I thought we had that etching machine. So we're looking into that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something because it really enhances. Right now we have that pack being developed for 50 common word buttons, so you can do some level of customization, but it's not like we'll really personalize it the way you might like to. But we're looking into that.
Okay, great. Let's see, mark that one off the list. Do we in the future ever plan on integrating other protocol support such as Zigbee or Z-Wave?
I think the longer term answer there, I'll talk this in a couple places, the longer term answer there is Matter. So there's a new industry standard coming out again, and it's called Matter. Yep. There's been a number of these attempts. I have a higher degree of belief that this one might succeed. So being able to integrate with Matter will provide some of that, that integration, native integration, which would be interesting. If it really can play together, that'll be interesting. We plan to support Matter moving forward. As far as, this is an interesting point, as far as Zigbee and Z-Wave and other kinds of, for those who don't know, it's another protocol that's competitive to the Insteon technology. The interesting thing that's happened in the market today, I think, is what Amazon and Google and Apple have been able to do through their speakers, whatever you like to call them. I don't want to mention the names, I don't want her going off here. But you can do some creative integrations using that as the integration vehicle. So within my house, for instance, my Sompi's a blind, they make blind motors, been around for a long time. And I'm able to integrate in my blinds with my Insteon network here using Amazon. That's the one I've been using Amazon to integrate together. So there's a lot of integration that can take place. Similarly, my Ring cameras are integrated in with Insteon using that same platform. So if you haven't looked at some of that, if you do want to integrate, it's an interesting opportunity to integrate disparate technologies and bring them together using those platforms to help you.
Great. Here's one. A lot of people wonder if there's any way that they can back up their hub settings to the cloud, or will we have that opportunity to be able to do that in the future?
I think that's something we're looking into. I mean, we know your devices are, we have the devices, but yeah, so the ability to be able to download those links back into it, take a look at that. And that's one of the challenges with the hub now too. There's some design issues. If I was there doing this, I would never agree to. So we're living with that, and we'll be looking forward to trying to rectify some of those problems.
And Ken, I think you've answered this a little bit, that maybe a lot of people are asking, kind of talk about the differentiation of the crowded market, but from a technical standpoint, what are the differences between like Insteon, say, to Lutron Casita?
From a product standpoint, I think from a product standpoint, I think we're very competitive on the product and functions and features. I think the protocol, and I've had an opportunity, both being at Smart Home and since when leaving Smart Home, been in the industry, even when I was working for the family office, so I was very active in the industry and looking at all the protocols. In fact, I visited Lutron numerous times in my role at Swap. But the Asean Protocol just fundamentally is more robust, using both the power line which the power line is, by the way, is the most reliable way to get a signal throughout the house on a consistent basis. If you don't believe me, try doing Zigbee or Z-Wave and put a couple products in and see how successful you are. And then combining that with the RF. So we have a robust protocol that I think is fundamentally sound to build upon, and I think is superior. And so moving forward, we got the great foundation of the protocol. Now it's just designing great products, and I think we've got good products, and we got some ideas for some improvements on the product side. So I think we can compete very competitively with them.
Let me add to that also that the scalability of Insteon versus some of the other technologies, like if you're going to go out and you want one button to be able to control 100 devices, you might say, well, why would I want that? Well, if you have that many in your house and you want to go turn them all off with a push of a button, and to be able to do that, like I said, without any controller or anything, Insteon really is the only way to do that. If you've got Lutron and you're trying to, a keypad, a wired keypad, try to find a wired keypad that you could link to turn on 100 devices without a hub. It's just not going to happen. So I look at it from the scalability standpoint, of the fact that it transmits on the power line. It's got a very robust messaging system. So what happens is it goes out as a broadcast, and then it will repeat 3 times. All devices that hear that signal. So it just gets a stronger signal as it goes out. This all happens in like a 40th of a millisecond. So it's very quick, and that's how you don't have to have a hub or something that has to send out routed messages to things to tell them to turn on. They're through commands, they're in the device. Every device has a database that can listen to up to 417 different things. Now I can push a button and the devices are not only repeating the signal, they're listening and going, oh, that's me, and they turn on almost as fast as I push that button. So you don't have that popcorn effect, and you can really transmit those long distances. Try picking somebody else's technology where you've got a house that's got a gate that's 50 or 100 yards down the road, and you want to control the gate from Z-Wave or something like that. It's just not going to happen. So it's really the fact that it can go a mile on the power line, the Insteon signal, on a number 12 piece of wire, a straight piece of wire. You can send that signal a mile and it stays at protocol strength. And then in your home, every device repeats it back at full strength. So I just want to throw out that it's a very strong, very robust protocol. And if you manage the environment that it's in, it really, I found it to be second to none. And I've installed everything.
That's a good point, Stephen. We probably should at some point put out there's a lot of hidden gems in the Insteon technology. Steve kind of alluded to that. Most other technologies are routed. They say they're a mesh network, but they're a routed network. So when you send a signal, it goes to the next device. The next device then has to message it and send it back out again. versus the Insteon network. When the message goes out, all devices receive it simultaneously, and then all devices repeat it again. It adds a lot of robustness to the network, but it also adds some interesting opportunities that Steve's talking about, how you can link disparate devices together too, just the way the messaging was put together. So, Brent, we should put something together, just highlight. I remember the old days when I was launching Insteon, I had a whole presentation and all the enhancements and why Insteon really was robust. And, I should dust off that whole presentation and we should share it. They might find it interesting to learn some of the things underneath the covers on the technology itself.
Your PowerPoint with Windows 95, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one more that's, again, pretty frequent. So if I don't end up buying a subscription, what happens as far as my access with Insteon, and does that have any effect if I'm using ISY or other third parties? Steve, you want to take that?
Yeah, so if you decide not to get a subscription for the Insteon Hub, which is fine, and you have an ISY, which is fine, you don't even have to have a subscription with the ISY. The reason why they do it is so, if you're going to do any leveraging of the cloud, where you want to do something like, if I push the A button on my Insteon keypad, I want to start my Tesla. Okay, if you don't need to do that kind of stuff, you don't have to leverage the cloud. The reason why is the Tesla doesn't have an Insteon engine in it, and it can't communicate directly, so it has to do it through a cloud aggregator. The ISY supports the ability for you to port forward, meaning you go in your router and you say, I want to allow this device to be able to be accessed from outside. And then it's your responsibility to keep track of what your outside IP address is, but you could access it remotely and not have to pay for a cloud subscription. Now, I know I was doing this, and the one time I was in Europe and I wanted to be able to reach my house. And you know what happened? My IP address changed, and I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, I would have gladly have paid $1,000 at that time to have been able to do what I needed to do. I'm trying to let somebody in the house, and I couldn't reach the hub. So, anyhow, that's a longer story for another day. But yeah, you can manually link all the devices and not use it for remote access. You could get something like an ISY and have remote access without a cloud, but then you have to have a little bit of knowledge to be able to do the port forwarding. And so, with that monthly fee does come a value, and you have to decide whether that value is important to you or not.
So, just to be clear, then the subscription is tied to the hub and only impacts the hub. So if you're not using the hub, no reason for a subscription. It doesn't impact any other relationship with anybody else or any other service you're using. It's only related to supporting the connectivity for the hub itself.
And I'll also add to that, regards to, just supporting the hub. A lot of times people will say, okay, so you're forcing me to pay for a subscription, and if I don't, then everything's useless. And that's not true. The products are awesome independent of the hub. The hub just allows you remote access, and you can set some timed events to turn things on. The real power and the value, at least in my opinion, comes from the fact that I can control anything from anywhere in my house with the Insteon product line. So let's not lose sight of that independent of anything else, the products themselves still have a great value.
Yes. Another question people ask is, right now it looks like we're only supporting control of the hub through mobile applications. Do we ever foresee desktop applications or web browser applications coming back, or is that kind of a thing of the past?
We've talked about it, but we have no plan for it right now. I know a couple of people have reached out to me, so I'd be curious to learn and hear about this one where you can give us some input, learn the use of that and the value of that versus having it on a tablet or a phone. So that would be what I'd be looking for. It's come up, but I'd love more feedback on that so we have a better understanding where that fits in and where we can put that in the priority level.
Okay, great. A few people internationally, thank you for joining. It's a tough time zone for you right now as far as the timing of this call, not exactly lunchtime, but a lot of people asking, since it looks like most of our stuff right now on our store is kind of only opportunities for people in North America. Do we plan on having, for example, European versions of our product like the hub and stuff like that moving forward?
we're looking into that. We do have, well, there's nothing on the store yet. There will be some products here in the next day or so. We're looking at those markets. So again, that would be another one to help me understand, the size of that market and the market opportunity. So that's one. Keep your cards and letters coming. Let us know. We're driven by your feedback. So we have a little bit of knowledge on some of the things in the past, but hearing your current thoughts and which products specifically you need would be extremely helpful to us.
Yeah. Let's see. Steve, for you, every time I open up my device status dashboard in my app and all the colors are wrong, why does it not sync properly as far as, example, a switch being on and being green versus off and being column? What does yellow mean? What does red mean? You just kind of help people with device statuses and how to get that synced.
Okay. So when you go into the app and you have yellow means we just don't know. It's not communicating. It doesn't mean you didn't control it, though. It just means we don't know what it is. White is typically off. Red or green, based on whatever app you're using. Sometimes you'll get a momentary color flash that's showing that everything communicated. It was like a green flash on it showing you that everything in that scene communicated. But I think it's important to understand this. Here's what happens. I was talking to a customer today. He has an Insteon hub and he has an ISY, both talking to the same devices. What happens in a case like that is, sure, you can control both devices from both, but only one can be a master, meaning one that has the ability in the group 0 monitoring group. When you add the hub and learn those devices in, now it deletes that group 0 from your ISY, and now it's in your Insteon hub, and now the ISY can't get status, or vice versa. If you just have a hub, what's happened is either the hub lost the monitoring link for that device, and usually you can fix it by just going back into the app and re-add it again. And you'll hear the beep, 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 the link, and it re-links it and puts it back in. And I believe this still works. You could go onto your hub and press and hold the Sept button on the back of the hub. It puts it into link mode and go to that device you're not getting status on and press and hold. Sometimes that'll fix it. Because what's happening is when the device gets turned on, somebody turns on, let's say, a bathroom light, and the bathroom light is in the hub, and you're looking on your phone, and they turn it on, and you don't see any status change. It doesn't mean the device didn't turn on manually. Somebody just turned it on. That device sends out a command, and the hub heard it, but the hub's like, I don't know what it is. I don't have that address in my database that I'm monitoring for this device. That's different than when you go into your app and you tell your bathroom light to turn on. That's a direct message. It's sending a direct message to it, not an ID that it's supposed to be listening to on group 0, which is a giant scene that it uses to sort of monitor status of devices. So, in closing, you can fix it by either delete it and put the device back in. Some cases you can just manually link it, or go back in the app and re-add it on top of itself. So you puts the links back in. That's usually why that's happened.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. We have a lot of people that were former either an installer, integrator, distributor with smart home and Insteon products. Are we looking to eventually go down that path of having certified installers and working with integrators, having distributors, or is it going to stay more, as it looks right now, more of a direct sale model?
That's consistent with my mantra of partners. So no, we're looking to support partners. So if you're interested, reach out to us. I mean, the only thing I'm dealing with right now is supply chain issues and trying to get the products, to have enough quantity and products to get into the marketplace. But certainly open to it. So please reach out to us if you've been a dealer or installer and interested in continuing with us. So no, they're a key partner, and they serve it. Well, you can see Steve built a nice business or doing it and brought us lots of new customers when the old days and I was back there, and now the new days. So certainly want to support them. And I've talked to a couple of you who reached out to me, and I've talked to a couple of you. So just make yourself aware, make your awareness to me, so I know that we can start talking with you.
Okay, we're getting up against our time limit right here, so maybe we can ask one more question here. And thank you again. So many people with just great comments in the QA as well. All the thanks for reviving Insteon notes. That makes our day. No, Ken does not drink rum. He only does like bourbon. For you that offered. And I think one that we're getting pretty frequently here, and I know it happens personally with me too, sometimes a scene triggers, Steve, and not all devices in the scene execute the command. Is there a way to troubleshoot or fix that particular instance when not everything in the scene is responding?
Yeah, so that can be related to a couple of things. If it consistently happens that way, where you have a scene, you look in your app and you see that there's 10 devices that are in it, and you turn it on and only 9 turn on. And I'm just using 9 as an example. And repeatedly, 9 turn on. You never get the 10th one to turn on. There's actually multiple options here. One is delete that device from the scene and put it right back in again. Well, you might say, why do I have to do that? Why does it happen? Why doesn't it work? It says it's in the scene. When I turn the scene, why isn't it going on? When you push a scene, the scene is called a group command. And all of the devices that are in that scene, in their database, if you looked at it as like some lined paper that was numbered 1 to 417, and every device then that's in a scene, in one of those lines, they have a number that's written down, which is a group command that they're listening for. And they can listen up to 417. If the device that's supposed to turn on, something happened, could be a voltage spike, something that just deleted the memory allocation in that spot. Now the scene goes on and the device is like, I don't know what that is. I'll repeat it, for anybody else's benefit, but I don't know what that is. That's what happens. That's why it happens. So that's one reason. It's easily fixed. Delete it, put it right back in again. The other thing is that you have communication issues. Something's happened, and this is something that this is sort of an Achilles heel in a localized area with an Insteon network. Auto switching power supplies that have gone rogue. First of all, what is an auto switching power supply? I won't get into all of the details, but a visual would be if you could take your living room light switch and you could turn it on and off fast enough that when you turn it on and your light goes up, you turn it off before it even gets to about 5%. And then you turn it off, and when it's off, you turn it off just long enough and turn it back on. But you do it so fast that it looks like your lights are dim. That's what's happening to a cell phone little charging cube. If I've got one here, I can show you one of those. You look at this and go, how does this thing take 120 volts and convert it to 5 volts? Where's the big transformer that we used to have that we would plug in, a wall wart you'd call them? Well, they do that through something called an auto switching power supply, where it at very high frequency is turning it on and off. You blow a resistor in that, it still gives you the 5 volts to charge your phone, but what happens is it starts spewing noise onto the power line, and it is at a high frequency. And you can't hear it, taste it, or smell it, but it's there, and it's like somebody screaming in your ear, and you're trying to listen to somebody else. And it occasionally you'll be able to pick up what that other person's saying, but you really want to say, can you just stop for a moment so I can listen to that? But it never stops, and it goes on continuously. So that could be happening, and it doesn't affect the whole house usually, but it does maybe affect a localized area. The switch could be a victim of that. How do I uncover it? I usually go to the breaker panel, turn off a breaker, and then say, now, does it work? No, turn it back off, or turn it back on, do the next one, until I can find and know it. In my experience, it is not systemic throughout the house. It's always one little thing. Night light, hallway, or something like that. So that could be the other reason why it's not happening. And I realize it's frustrating, but it's not a result of the Insteon technology specifically in this case, where it's not sending the command and the device wouldn't listen to it. It's you have other environmental things that are really affecting it.
And that is where all the new Insteon devices being both, radio and power line gives you an alternative to maybe get around that noise. I will comment just as a general too, we found, particularly with the hubs, you may be plugging them in near where all your computer equipment is, your router and things, and it's not uncommon that you're going to put some kind of surge protector on that circuit, and that's not good because what it's trying to do is kill any other signals that are coming, i.e. the Insteon signal. So make sure if you're having some reliability issues, that's another quick fix is to move the hub and plug it into an electrical outlet that isn't, protected by some kind of, a power surge protector. The other one that we found is UPS systems can cause a lot of problems as well. And usually, as Steve said, it'll be really related to any device that might be really close to that UPS system. We'll be bringing back the filter link, which is a way of dealing with that. A filter link would allow you to plug your UPS system into the filter link, and it'll then block the UPS from putting out this noise that Steve's talking about. There's some third-party ones you can buy now too on Amazon. If you're having a real problem, you can take a look at that. But that's another little thing we find quite often.
One test that I've done that's simple without having to take it, unplug it, and move it and do all of that. Get an extension cord. Go plug it on the other side of the house. Run it over, plug your hub into it, try that scene. If it works, then you know it was noise related.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are right up against here our time limit, and I don't want to be everyone to be shut off for all the time without us being able to say thank you one more time. Steve or Ken, anything you would like to wrap up with here?
I'd just like to wrap up and just say, I've said it before, just sincerely thank you for supporting us. I know you guys went through a very rough time from April to June when we were able to get things going back again. And I just appreciate and respect you guys sticking with us. And hopefully we'll do right by you. And as I've said it before, all the nice comments and things I really appreciate. I'd rather hear what we're doing wrong. So be vocal. We are listening. Please reach out. And thanks for taking a whole hour of your time and joining us for this. And I think Brent's going to have a little survey at the end. Please take the time to give us the feedback so we can make these kind of events even better for you.
All right. Thanks, Ken. And I'd just like to point out, just so everyone knows, a ton of feedback, Steve, as far as a manual linking video. A ton of people saying that'd be super, super helpful. So I think that is absolutely noted. And so I think that's...
You're on the hook now, Steve.
Yeah, I know.
If you go to YouTube, I mean, I got tons of stuff out there. I think Steve Lee Insteon, and you'll probably find all you want to watch as far as Insteon stuff. But yeah, maybe we'll do some new stuff, and especially as things come out, I want to start putting together a repository of these things so other people can benefit from your question. We put them into a video, and maybe it makes it easy. Instead of a tech support question, you can look and go, oh, there's a video that answers my question. So we're going to definitely be doing that kind of stuff.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think we answered hopefully a lot of your questions, and I think moving forward, this is a great time for us. I know I enjoy being part of it. I can speak for Steve and Ken. I think this was really, really valuable, and hope we'll see you again, and maybe we can actually meet you face to face one of these days.
That'd be great. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody.